We like to think that story stays behind us, locked safely in textbooks. But what if certain places act as sponges, soaking up every ounce of human grief, anger, and loneliness until the building itself begins to breathe? In a forgotten corner of Illinois, there is a derelict state that hasn't known human warmth in generations. Yet, it is anything but empty. For decades, those who dare to approach its iron gates have reported an oppressive weight in the air, a heavy, suffocating silence that shatters the moment you realize you are being watched from the dark. This is the mystery of McPike Mansion. If you are ready to explore the unsettling truths that hide just beyond the edge of daylight, leave a like on this video and subscribe, then let's start a community. I am Victor, and this is Eldritch Stories. The story of McPike Mansion is inseparable from the dark tapestry of Alton, Illinois. Nestled along the limestone bluffs of the Mississippi River, Alton carries a geographic scar. Long before the mansion was built, this region was a boiling pot of human misery. It was the site of a brutal Civil War prison camp where smallpox ran rampant, claiming thousands of lives and leaving the local earth sated with premature death. In 1869, Henry Guest McPike, a man of immense local influence and a horticulturist, decided to build his dream home on Mount Lookout, the highest point in the city. He erected a massive three-story Italianate structure. It was a masterpiece of 19th century luxury, complete with white marble fireplaces, grand arched windows, and an underground vaulted cellar designed to store his prized wines. For over half a century, the house stood as a beacon of high society. But after the McPike bloodline left, the house entered a dark era. It became a boarding school, then a multi-family tenement, and eventually, by the 1950s, a completely derelict shell, left to rot under the aggressive Midwestern weather. The mansion became a haunting silhouette against the Illinois sky. Let's pause and consider something for a moment. Why does the American Midwest have such a unique obsession with haunted houses? In other parts of the world, ghosts belong to castles and ancient ruins. But in America, the frontier was conquered quickly, and these grand Victorian houses were built as symbols of safety and dominance over a wild, untamed land. When one of these structures falls into ruin, it triggers an existential dread. It forces us to confront the idea that our civilization is fragile. An abandoned mansion is a monument to failure, and the human mind naturally populates that failure with the supernatural. In 1994, the property was purchased by new owners who hoped to restore it, but they quickly discovered that 40 years of abandon had allowed a different kind of occupant to take root. The mansion was no longer just wood and stone. It had become an activate gateway for phenomena that defied explanation. Those who visit Mount Lookout today don't just report seeing things, they report a profound shift in reality. The hauntings of McPike Mansion are notoriously active, localized primarily around two distinct entities that seem bound to the decaying architecture. The first entity is a spectral figure known to locals as Sarah, a woman frequently seen wandering the overground gardens or standing on the skeletal remains of the front porch. Unlike typical ghost stories where apparitions fade when looked at directly, witnesses claim Sarah appears remarkably solid. She is often accompanied by the sudden, overwhelming scent of lilacs and oud perfume. Investigators who have attempted to speak to her describe a sudden wave of intense sorrow washing over them, an emotional projection so strong that visitors frequently burst into tears without understanding why. But the atmosphere changes drastically when you descend into the underbelly of the mansion. The vaulted wine cellar is a place where daylight has never touched, and it is the domain of a far more intense presence. In the early 2000s, a team of skeptical researchers secured permission to spend the night inside the cellar. They set up electromagnetic field meters and motion sensors in the center of the dark, dirty floor room. The first few hours, the subterranean air was dead and still, but just after midnight, the motion sensors began to trigger in a sequential line, tracking something moving slowly from the back wall toward the center of the room. The air pressure changed so violently that several researchers reported their ears popping, as if they were diving deep underwater. Then a cold sigh echoed through the dark. A sudden draft brushed past their faces. Inside a cellar with absolutely no ventilation. When the team activated their infrared cameras, they captured large glowing anomalies dancing around the room, completely independent of any light source. One researcher felt a sharp, icy pressure against his chest, finding a faint bruise in the shape of a palm the following morning. Over the year, the mansion has also become famous for a phenomenon known as the shadows that walk. Multiple accounts from neighbors and passers-by describe seeing dark, human-shaped voids moving behind the boarded-up windows of the third floor. These shadows don't mimic human movement. They stretch and contort unnaturally across the ceiling, moving with an eerie, predatory intelligence that suggests the house isn't just haunted by its past residents, but by a collective energy that feeds on the fear of the living. How do we make sense of a place like McPike Mansion? If we look for logical explanations, geologists point out that Alton sits on a massive network of limestone caverns and underground springs connected to the Mississippi River. The movement of water through these stone channels creates low-frequency vibrations, infrasound. While humans cannot consciously hear these frequencies, our bodies respond to them with psychological symptoms, a sense of paranoia, unexplained chills, and the feeling of being watched. Furthermore, the severe decay of the building means that toxic molds and old lead dust are heavily present in the air. Inhaling these toxins over a prolonged period can easily induce dizziness and mild audiovisual distortions. Yet, can environmental physics truly explain the consistency of these accounts? When different people across multiple decades describe the exact same scents, the same solid figures, and the same emotional drops in the exact same rooms, the skeptical arguments begin to crack. Perhaps McPike Mansion is proof that when a structure is exposed to decades of isolation and residual regional trauma, it becomes a magnet for the anomalous. The next time you find yourself driving through a historic town, pay attention to the houses that look a little too quiet, the structures that society decides to turn its back on might just be the ones looking back at us. The McPike Mansion doesn't just hold secrets, it waits, it sits in the dark, gathering the echoes of everything that ever suffered within its walls, and it will outlast us all. If you felt the weight of Mount Lookout, support the channel by leaving a like and subscribing to Eldritch Stories. Drop a comment below. Would you open the cellar door of McPike Mansion? I am Victor, and this is Eldritch Stories.